You won't want to miss today's show. Today, Keith McDonnell of KMiGaming joins us. We talk about the pandemic and how it may be affecting the iGaming industry and when sports might come back.
This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy.
Everywhere you turn, it's the same old sports talk, the same headlines, the same news, and the same boring information. This podcast is here to change all of that. We bring you hot sports takes, winning sports betting strategy and picks, reliable gaming industry news, and breaking interviews with some of the biggest names in sports business. My name is Ryan Knuppel, and welcome to the Knup Sports Show. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Knup Sports Show. I'm your host, Ryan Knuppel, here with you each and every episode. Today's going to be a little different format. Today, I'm going to sit down with Keith McDonnell. Keith is the CEO of KMiGaming. Keith, are you with me?
I'm with you, Ryan. How are you doing?
I am blessed, my friend. I'm blessed, and I'm blessed that you're here with me to talk a little bit about just what's going on in the sports betting space and in business space during this COVID-19 pandemic. And I just want to kind of talk to you about some different situations that are going on. So I'm happy that you're here, and I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I mean, obviously this whole crisis, let's call it, has been a challenge for us all, both professionally and personally. I mean, I think the first thing we all had to do was wrap our heads around this, and you go through a process in doing that, starting with denial in some ways, but then you get used to it and you get into a routine, and then of course all the professional challenges kick in. But I think the industry has been pretty good on how it's tackled those, and hopefully we'll get into some of those today.
Yeah, we will. So let's start on the personal side. So how have you guys adjusted to this whole concept of having to homeschool and really not being able to leave the household, and just this whole stay in and not really go out lifestyle, not in a business perspective, but how have you what have you learned, I guess, through this this shutdown?
Yeah, it's been a challenge. I mean, I'd say I'm now, 2 months in to sort of, since lockdown, or just a little under, used to it and have established a routine. But, I guess I wasn't starting from square one in that I haven't really worked in a corporate office since 2011. So, my routine personally has been either working from home or, flying long haul overseas to Asia, or more recently within America or back to Europe. So, the sort of having my setup at home and everything from a professional point of view is kind of been business as usual in that regard. I have 2 kids. They're both still in school, but they're both in high school. So, they're pretty independent. They don't need me to sit there or my wife to sit there and make sure they're doing what they have to be doing as part of the online schooling. So they've been fantastic. I think we over the years and, in recent years, have been very quick to criticize the youth, in inverted commas, as being, having things too easy and taking things for granted. Well, I think what's going on right now is a real crash course in how not to take things for granted, and actually to be thankful for what you have, and how to be creative and innovative. And, I've seen that in my own kids, which is good. And hopefully that stays with them, coming out of this. The sort of personal lifestyle side of things, I guess you and I, Ryan, we're kind of blessed in a way where we live in the Sunshine State, and yes, we've had lockdown since March, but I think lockdown in Florida hasn't quite been as stringent as, say, lockdown in other states or certainly other countries around the world. And of course, as soon as we step outside our front door, we got the sunshine above most days. So we're kind of lucky in that regard compared to some people who are stuck in cities and don't have that option. But we've all missed out on going out. It's a real outdoor climate and environment here. And, that includes restaurants. It includes, various events you want to go to, and they're all shut apart from, slight relaxation this week, and we'll see how that goes. So it's definitely taken adjustment, but I don't want to say I'm institutionalized, heaven forbid. I don't want that ever to be the case, but I certainly feel like, we've established a new routine now. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's funny for me, on a personal side, is I've always thought of myself as a fairly active person and really like to get some exercise and do things like that. But I'm such a logging person. I track all my stuff that I do, and for some reason, this last month, I ran more than I've ran in the last 2 years, and I biked more miles than I biked in the last I don't know how many years. And so
something about just this thought process of having to stay home and not being able to go out and not really having this other almost like distractions in life has forced me to kind of be healthier in a way. And it's kind of a weird, maybe I'm not eating healthier. That's probably not true, but I'm getting more exercise. I'm getting out. We're going on walks as a family, which, may sound cheesy, but it's kind of cool, kind of a neat concept. That's the one thing I really noticed in my personal life is I'm just getting out in nature. I'm doing things. I'm a little more active. And I don't really know why, because my day-to-day life hasn't changed. It's just this mindset of like, okay, I don't have practices to go to or games to go to, or we're not going out to eat tonight. And so I have more time. I can spend the afternoon and go run because I know I can, do this other thing at night or something. I don't know. It's been a different mindset for me.
And I think there's a desire amongst us. The psychology is really interesting to try and squeeze the good and the positives out of the things we can do, rather than focusing on and dwelling on what we can't do. And for that includes things like going for walks. It's not cheesy at all, by the way, but things like going for a walk, going for bike rides. I had a bike. I bought a bike a year ago. I stuck it in my garage for 10 months. I've been on that bike so much the last 2 months, to the point where I've actually broken the chain. So just things that I hadn't got around to doing, I've now done almost to the max over the last 2 months. But
Sure.
I'm not going to cycle as much when normality, inverted commas, returns. But I still want to cycle. I've kind of fallen back in love with my bike. So yeah, it's good. I think there's hopefully going to be a lot of good things that will come of this.
Agree. So let's shift over to the business side a little bit, and I'll ask you first. So how has the pandemic affected KMiGaming? And so is it, have you had to pivot? Have you seen a downturn? Are you kind of business as usual? I'm curious more from like a business perspective, how this downturn, what has that done to your business side?
Well, we're massive experts in esports and virtual sports now. No, I mean, in all seriousness, yes, it has affected our business. We provide traditional consultancy services, as part of what we do, but we also have been involved over the years in deals that have seen, software houses do deals with operators, and the long tail for us, and that has been, some sort of reward based on performance. And of course, where that's sportsbook orientated, well, no sports equals no sports betting equals no revenue share. So,
Sure.
That side of the business has taken a real hit. Again, like I said before, I'd rather focus on what we can do. And I made a joke of it there a second ago, but we have spent a lot of time understanding more about esports, understanding more about virtual sports. I think there's a huge difference between those two. Esports, I think that the upside of that product sustaining itself within a post-COVID world is very, very real. And I think this has probably been a catalyst for dragging esports in amongst the typical navigation of a sports book. You have individual sports betting people betting on teams, betting on players who are good. It's very akin to sports betting. Virtual sports looks great. The graphics are fantastic, but at the end of the day, it's driven by a random number generator. And I think sports betting people understand that. That said, I think it'll continue to do well within the casino environment, but it doesn't replace sports betting. But going back to your question, it's had a very material effect on our day to day. We typically travel quite a bit as part of what we do because networking is very important to us for deal making, for new business, and of course that's been wiped out pretty much or totally. And as I said, those sort of deals where we had structures based on revenues, they're gone too. So we've had to pivot. A lot of that's been learning. A lot of it's been positive, and I think we will benefit from that in the long run. And hopefully it'll put us into a stronger position when we come out of this.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I hope a lot of businesses heard what you just said there and really think of, maybe some of these things that they're doing in their business, the pivots that they're making, or the things they're able to focus on now are going to help them come out as a better company in the end. We may not like that there's not sports or sports betting going on, but like from our company's perspective, we do content creation in the iGaming industry. And we've probably focused 90% of our activity on sports betting in over the years. And that's really scary when they come and say there's no sports. I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck are we going to do? But what's funny is it forced us to now diversify into areas that we kind of did a little bit in, and in areas that I knew that we'd be good at, but we just never took that step to really make it happen. And now that we're doing casino content, we're doing esports content, we're doing different types of sports betting strategies and all sorts of stuff that we're kind of branching out into. I just know that when sports actually come back and we're doing our day-to-day content again like we were, we're going to be so much better of a company, and we're going to have all these other areas that are now blooming because of this time that we chose to not say woe is me and we're just going to fold for a while and let everybody go. No, we're going to push through this, and we're going to try to find other areas to grow. And I think businesses can really learn from that concept and try to do the same in whatever industry they're in. Find ways to maybe fix that process that's been broken, or fix something that you've been wanting to fix for a while in your business while you aren't as busy. I think that's a great learning lesson for people.
Totally agree. And it's hard to believe as we sit here right now, but when we had a full calendar of sports, there were weekends or there were times during the week when we within the industry or sports fans would look at each other and say, hey, it's a pretty quiet day today. That's with a full calendar of sports. It just, for whatever reason, the way the fixtures lay or whatever, it was a quiet weekend or it was a quiet day or whatever it may be. Hard to believe that now, but there were. I think coming out of this, operators and content producers such as yourself, but anybody who's involved in sports will have found ways to more effectively and more genuinely plug those gaps, right? So as an operator, it might be, okay, there's a quiet weekend in soccer or whatever. Let's go big on an esports tournament, or let's find a genuine way to offer 24/7 sports content coverage and betting opportunities. And I think in the past, it's been a little bit reactive. I think now operators and content producers and broadcasters and everybody will more naturally think of how to provide what a customer or a sports betting guy wants, and be able to do it more effectively.
100%. So let's talk a little bit about, speaking of pivoting, and in one area that, especially in the iGaming industry, that we kind of had to all pivot was the event space. That's something we all have grown to love, traveling to events and going to different events, whether it be in the United States or worldwide, going to the ICE events and the SBC events and all of the events that are put on. All of these companies had to shift to kind of a virtual platform, and not only the big events, but even the smaller meetups and the gatherings are all going to these webinar events and these virtual events, which are awesome. But I want to get your high level, I guess, feedback on what these have been like for you. And do you think these will take the place of events even when things come back to normal?
I never think they'll take the place of events. There's something specifically within our industry, but probably in other industries too, where just getting together in one place, whether it be Vegas, New Orleans, New York, London, whatever, as an industry, and swapping stories and exchanges over breakfast, dinner, lunch, beer, whatever, that just can't be replaced. I think the event organizers over the last 2 months have done an incredible job in terms of what they've done, and I'm talking across the board. I'm talking all of these guys. They've really stepped up when we've needed them most. I know from my personal experience, I go to lots of conferences every year. I'm kind of a social guy, and because when I'm not at those, I'm working from home most of the time. We have a remote network within our organization. I need that social interaction, and that was switched off 2 months ago. So these guys stepping up and putting these events on has been fantastic. I know the first month I was signing up to all of them. I needed to see people. I needed to hear them. The chance to interact, and I was typing away in the chat bars while people were talking. It was fantastic. I think, as time has gone on, I've been less inclined. I've been a little bit more choosy, almost the way I would be about where I fly to, to go to an event. And I think that's because there actually are quite a lot of webinar opportunities now. There's quite a lot of conferences, but they're still very good. And the most recent one, SBC last week, one of my team here went and took notes all day and told me all about it. And, she said it was fantastic. I had a quick look myself at the lobby and all the effort they put into the display. And it was amazing, and next week we have ICE North America. I was going to say in New Orleans, it's on the internet, but it was meant to be in New Orleans, but they've stepped up. They're going to do something slightly differently. I've pre-recorded something for that. So I think, I want to firstly praise everybody who's stepped up and delivered this to us as an industry, but secondly say it'll never replace, us all getting together. We are inherently extremely social. We work in an entertainment-based business, and that attracts a certain type of person. But I see a real world where they coexist. And actually, I think webinars and, digital conferences will be the better for this, but they'll never replace us getting together and having that beer.
Oh, I totally agree with that. And over the years, I've become a little more social as well. I used to be very introverted, believe it or not. And over the last couple of years, really jumping into this space, here in the United States, kind of legalizing sports betting, it's really forced me to kind of be a little more social, which I just now crave. And over the last 2 months, I've been like, man, I'm really missing out. We're all missing out on these events. And I just want to echo your praises, especially for the SBC event. I thought it was amazing. I'm really looking forward to the ICE event next week, and several other webinars that I had been a part of, and just different things that we've done over the last few months. The industry did step up, and they stepped up quickly. I mean, it's not easy to put together, when you think you're going to do a live event, and then in 2 weeks now, all of a sudden you got to put together a virtual event. You have no idea what platform you're going to use. You have to communicate with everybody. You kind of got to get it all set up, get your speakers lined up. Not an easy task to do. And I thought so far the industry's really done a good job of that. So, but I do agree with you. It better not replace it for good, because we need this. We need to meet up in Vegas or New Orleans. I was really looking forward to that as well.
Well, Ryan, you and I are going to get the Florida meetup going at some point. So as soon as
100%, 100%, Keith. I mean, that's number one priority once we can meet up. So we'll make that happen. But all right, let's shift gears a little bit again. I want to talk a little bit more about the U.S. sports betting industry as a whole. So I thought before this pandemic hit 2 months ago, I felt like we had some really good momentum in the industry. I mean, it felt like, the past year or two has just been steady amounts of news, state by state, legalizing different partnerships, different acquisitions, and things just seem to really be picking up in momentum. Now this hit and things have maybe slowed down a little bit naturally with casinos and sports books and everything being closed. Do you think when this comes back and we're or when things start to, I guess, open up again, will this momentum just pick up right where it left off? Or are we going to see kind of a lull here in the sports betting legalization landscape?
I don't think it's going to pick up where it left off. I think it's going to pick up with a turbocharger up its ass. Because honestly, I mean, even in this quiet time, we talk about since lockdown, there's been two major commercial deals done. We've seen the deal with SB Tech and DraftKings go through. We've seen the deal with Flutter and Stars Group go through. Today there was another one, not on the same scale, but involving Argyle, the owner of Sport Nation, and Esports Entertainment Group, again on NASDAQ. So there's a lot of corporate deal making going on, while we're going through this. But I think the real reason for the turbocharge on the momentum, in my mind anyway, is that I think that a lot of the resistance to the evolution of sports betting across the country may be brought into question and may actually dissipate. If we analyze it, there was states against it for various reasons, whether it be moral, social, or whatever the reasons were local to that state. There were corporate reasons because maybe, land and bricks and mortar based casinos were opposed to iGaming as they saw it as a threat, which is a challenge I had to deal with 20 years ago in the UK. And it's here now within certain corporations. And I think when you look at those organizations individually, states, they're going to need tax income, right? The
Sure.
tax deficit, because of what we're going through now, is going to be enormous. There's going to need to be additional stimulus for the coffers. What better way than to include an evolution of sports betting and regulated iGaming as part of that contributor to the funds? From a corporate opposition point of view, those bricks and mortar casinos, well, if they had an iGaming platform right now, they'd be earning money as we speak, but they're not, because the casinos are shut. So I think they may be taking a crash course in why iGaming is not a threat, which I don't think it is anyway, regardless of I'm not trying to say their hand should be forced to it, but some of these land-based guys, if they can get their heads around the opportunity that iGaming brings and offer loyalty programs where, people who are loyal customers online can come and have a comped weekend, 5-star dinner, all these things that land-based casinos can offer and iGaming companies can't, then that's a way of them owning their state through online as well. So I actually think that, some of the factors that were actually holding back expanded momentum prior to this may become, lesser factors. And actually this could speed things up in terms of evolution. Obviously we're stuck in the trenches right now. But on coming out of that, I see this moving forward at a faster pace. I mean, added to that, they're the sort of political issues, if you like. I think people are going to be more resilient. We've had people are forced to be more creative in marketing, in product. You think of some of the conversations going on internally to try and get revenues during this time in a responsible way. It's not easy. It's a balancing act, but it's, again, a learning opportunity for people. And on the product side, we've already talked about it, Ryan. We've had the traditional suite of products prior to this, very comfortable. We sort of trundle along, but this has required creativity. It's required innovation. It's going to haul esports into the mainstream, and other product verticals too. There's been a resurgence of poker. So I think there's a number of factors that actually coming out of this. I personally think the momentum is going to swell, and 12 to 24 months after this, we're going to see a lot more states open up, both to sports betting, but to iGaming as well.
Wow, that's like a mic drop. Keith McDonnell of KMiGaming. Man, there was like some quotes in there that I'm going to be using for the next few weeks, Keith. That was I'm not even going to expand on what you just said, because I think you beautifully projected what this could mean to the iGaming and to the just the industry as a whole. So, man, that was a great answer. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Like I said, I'm not even gonna try to expand on what you said. I'm just gonna say what he said. That's the answer I have. What he said. So great job with that answer. So, but speaking of being in the trenches right now, there's one thing that we're all speculating of, and that we keep hearing rumors of, is like, when is sports going to actually come back? Will there be a finish of this NBA season? Will there even be a baseball season? Will we be ready when football comes around? God, we better be ready when football comes around, or none of us will live. That's where everybody keeps asking me, is when will sports come back? We don't know. But, we're starting to see things happen. We're starting to see UFC come back this month. There's going to be quite a few events going on. NASCAR is coming back. I personally do think NBA is going to have the end of a season. I kind of go back and forth on that answer, but right now I'm feeling like they're starting to open up practice facilities as they can. I think they're going to figure out something. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I think they're going to figure out something. I think when it all comes back, man, the schedule and the craving around the nation from a user and an engagement perspective is going to be just unheard of and absurd. So I'm excited to see when that happens. Do you have any thoughts on what leagues will come back first, or what they're going to do here in the next, 1 to 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, I'm far more optimistic about things generally on that point, Ryan, than I was, say, a month ago. But it is going to be gradual, and every morning I wake up and I look for green shoots and glimmers of light at the end of the tunnel. And as you say, the UFC, I think, is this Saturday in Jacksonville. our home state has given Dana White and his boys the chance to get something going there. And, Tony Ferguson at the top of the bill. So it's a pretty good fight. That'll be interesting to see how those guys can do with social distancing, but I'm assuming they have the relevant testing procedures in place and quantity as well. We've heard of golf coming back this month in Florida also, not PGA, that's next month, but Rory McIlroy is playing an event with Dustin Johnson and a couple of other guys, which will be built for TV, which is, I think it's a week on Sunday. That's great. In the UK, they've had some darts on TV where they've been really creative about getting players in their own living rooms, throwing boards at electronic boards, so the scoring is electronically collated. And these are pros. These are playing against each other.
Right.
It's far from ideal, but it's a lot better than nothing. Some sports, of course, lend themselves better to getting things back going earlier than others, golf being a prime example. And that's why we have, I think it's June the 8th or some date in early June tabled as the return for the PGA. When you say football, I feel your pain, Ryan. To me, football still means soccer, right? And we had our seasons totally derailed halfway through. I'm a Liverpool fan as well, so we're like way clear at the top of the Premier League in England, and the season has stopped. So I'm extremely frustrated. But the good news there being the Bundesliga was given the green light by Angela Merkel yesterday in Germany to continue on the 15th of May. I think a lot of the European soccer leagues will be looking at that really closely to see how they do. The French and the Dutch leagues have decided they're going to not play again this year. But the other big leagues like Spain and Italy, we still hold out hopes. I'm hopeful for the big US sports. I hear various stories about the NBA. I'm sure you do too. One of which involves getting teams together and competing in a tournament type capacity. Similar for the MLB. Football, well, we hear that there's no change at this point to the start of the season, but the question mark is over whether fans can attend, of course. So, I think the pandemic, if it were to fall well for any sport, it was probably football, your guys' football. Given it hasn't interrupted anything and there's still a possibility the new season could start on time. But of course, this hasn't been good for anyone because it upset the draft and it upset training and everything else. So I'm pretty optimistic. I also think from a sports betting perspective, going back to my soccer example, if we look in Europe, probably, I don't know, in the UK, maybe 10% of betting on soccer would have been on the Bundesliga. Well, I think that's going to be a lot higher when it returns the week on Saturday. I think there's going to be a lot of eyeballs watching Germany and very quickly a lot of people in England and probably other countries around the world will suddenly have a favorite German team, so it could be good for the Bundesliga in real terms. So again, I'm optimistic. Of course, every league is looking at the other and seeing what happens, and we'll all be seeing what comes out of the UFC event this weekend. But we like to think there's people with brains in charge of these leagues, and hopefully, this can be more a case of 2 steps forward and 1 step back than anything else, and we can progress.
Yeah, I think the hard part, just being here in the United States and seeing everything that's going on, and just, the states are just so almost like different countries. Every state has their own rules and their own things going on, and that to me is the biggest just the biggest gray area in all of this, because to really have a sport work into one of these major sports like the NBA or the NFL, I mean, there's teams in every state all over the place. And so really to have that work, you're going to have all states on board to like the rules and having things working, unless you're going to truly, take a sport and try to do it in Vegas or try to do it in, I heard Disney was going to open their campus to some sport or something like that. I don't know how that would work very well, playing baseball only in Arizona. That doesn't seem like it's going to work real well. So I think you're going to have to get all the states really up to the same level, and I just don't see that happening right now, and it's frustrating. But I think when that does happen, the sports are going to be ready to go. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I like your positivity, and I'm kind of with you there, but I also see some roadblocks that we still have to get through here.
There's no doubt there's roadblocks, and I've the league I've watched the closest, because it's the closest to my heart, is the Premier League in England. And you know, it's so complex getting that league going again that, you know, at the end of the day, there is simply not going to be a solution that everybody is happy with. It's just impossible given the requirement, you know, until we get back to old normal, you know, presumably when there's a vaccine. So I think it's, you know, whatever the solutions are in any league, it's going to require give and take from most people. You know, very few, or if any, are going to get an ideal situation for them. It's interesting to me in the Premier League this week, the biggest dissenters to those, you know, to getting things back are those that are in threat of relegation. Now, you know, yet they don't say it's because they're going to get relegated. They say it's because of health of players and all this, but they're the most vocal about it. But they have the reason to be most vocal about it. So I just think it's going to take, it's going to require give and take on everyone's part. And if that doesn't happen within a league, then I think, you know, I agree with you. It's going to be very, very difficult.
Awesome. Well, I could talk to you all day, but for sake of time, I think we better be wrapping up. I got 5 questions for you. I'm going to put you on the spot here. I got 5 questions. All I need is a quick answer. I need your quickest answer right off the top of your head. I know you're going to have some great 1-word, 2-word answers for me. Are you ready for this? Are you going to be able to answer my 5 questions with 1 or 2 words? What do you think?
Depends on the questions.
You'll be fine. I think you're gonna enjoy this. So here we go. You ready? Will the NBA finish their season this season?
Yes.
Will betting on Sports America event, will that actually happen in December?
No.
Have you actually played in an esports event yourself?
No.
What is the next state to legalize sports betting?
Massachusetts.
Oh, nice. Okay. And last one, what year will Florida legalize sports betting?
2023.
Oh, you're killing me, Keith. You're killing me. 2023. We can't wait that long. Come on. Oh, great answers, man. I appreciate you doing that for me. That's fun. That was you haven't played any esports yet, huh? Haven't gotten into the
You know what?
gaming.
My son has, and I've watched him doing it, and it's only because I'm terrible. So I actually did a crash course to get my head around esports betting. My son is 18, right? So he's perfect. And he sat with me, and I took him through, not that I'm encouraging him to gamble, of course,
Sure.
but I wanted to show him what's happening within our sector. And I said, listen, my blind spot is not understanding the actual product. Like, I understand football, you know. So he sat with me and he took me through a few games, and he played it. And I probably learned what I needed to learn from my thing from watching him play than me playing, because I'd just be, 101, and I probably wouldn't know anything more about the game if I was too focused on how to get the thing on the screen to move. So yeah, he was very helpful in that.
Amazing. Awesome. All right, Keith. Well, what else? You have anything else? Any closing words for the audience here? I really appreciate you joining me and us being able to just kind of talk about what's going on here. Anything we missed that you want to touch on?
Not really, Ryan. I mean, thank you for, it's nice to talk to you. And, as I said at the beginning, opportunities to reach out and speak to other industry folk are very welcome and appreciated at this time. I think, hopefully, and I do believe this, we have a really positive future ahead, and it's going to be tough, and it's not going to be an overnight thing. But for me, the macro ingredients are there, and we have some great people in the industry. So I'm proud to be a part of it, and look forward to seeing what's going to happen here over the next 12 to 24 months.
Me as well. I super appreciate you being here, Keith, and everybody listening. Thank you for tuning into this. I want to encourage you guys. If you want to reach out to myself or Keith, I know Keith's always open to talking to people, have questions, comments, just want to talk about the industry. We're both always available for that type of thing. So shoot either of us a message. I'll put links in the show notes of this. I'll put links to how you can get to both of us out there. But we're always looking forward to talking to some of you guys in the industry. So with that, Keith, I'll let you go, and I wish you all the best. Stay safe, and I can't wait to meet up over a drink here when we can actually get together again.
Look forward to it, Ryan. Thanks very much.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Knup Sports Show. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider subscribing to our iTunes channel today. Plus, visit us at knupsports.com for more picks, previews, strategy, and news. That's knupsports.com.